If your air conditioner won't stay on, kicking off after a minute or two and then starting right back up, that stutter has a name, and it's nowhere near the death sentence it feels like. People call it short cycling. The reason it rattles people is that a compressor snapping on and off sounds expensive, like the whole unit is on its way out. Most of the time, it's the opposite of expensive. It's a safety switch doing exactly what it's built to do, or something cheap and clogged strangling the airflow, and the fix often costs less than filling up your gas tank. So before you spend a dime or dial anybody, settle one thing, because a good chunk of people searching this don't actually have a broken air conditioner. You need to know whether it's even short cycling. A healthy unit runs a solid 10, 20, sometimes 30 minutes, cools the place, and clicks off satisfied. That's not a fault, that's the machine just doing its job. Real short cycling is when it runs a few seconds up to about 2 or 3 minutes, gives up before the house is comfortable, and repeats that over and over. So go time one cycle on your phone. 10 minutes in cooling means you're fine. Cutting out under 3 minutes again and again means you've got the real thing, and the rest of this is for you. A couple of normal situations get people worked up here, so let me clear those out of the way first. If your system just came back on after a power outage and it seems to hesitate, that pause is on purpose. The control board makes the compressor wait about 3 to 5 minutes before it'll restart, so the pressure inside can settle back down. That delay is the system protecting itself, and it's completely normal. Same story if you've got a newer inverter-style unit. Those don't shut the compressor off the way an older one does. They slow down and run almost constantly at low power, so if yours barely ever shuts off, that's usually the unit working exactly right. Honestly, the person whose air conditioner runs for hours is in better shape than the one whose unit keeps snapping off every couple minutes. Okay, so it really is short cycling. 2 quick readings tell you most of what you need before you pick up a single tool. First, how long does it run before it dies? A few seconds points at an electrical or a switch problem. A few minutes with the house cooling down fast points at the unit being too big, and we'll get to that one. Second, look for ice or water. Frost on that fat copper line outside, or ice on the indoor coil means an airflow or a refrigerant issue. Water pooling near an indoor unit up in a closet or attic points somewhere else entirely, the place it usually lands, and the first thing to rule out is airflow, simply because it's cheap and it's everywhere. Start with the air filter. Pull it out and actually look at it, and if it's gray and matted and packed with dust, you found it. A clogged filter starves the system for air, the coil behind it gets too cold, and a low-pressure safety switch shuts the compressor down to protect it. The pressure climbs back up, the unit fires again, and it just keeps chasing its own tail. Let that go long enough and the coil freezes into a solid block of ice, which blocks the air completely and makes every cycle worse than the last. If you spot ice, kill the system and let it thaw out fully, which can take a few hours, before you run it again. Running a frozen unit cools nothing and grinds on the compressor for no reason. Change the filter, and while you're outside, spray down the outdoor unit if the fins are clogged with grass and cottonwood, because a filthy outdoor coil makes the compressor overheat and cut out too. The techs who post their actual service calls keep coming back to this same unglamorous culprit, a starved filter or a coil nobody cleaned, far more than anything fancy. The next cheapest suspect is the thermostat, and I mean start with the truly dumb stuff. Weak or dead batteries can make it send a flickering signal that flips the unit on and off, so drop fresh ones in. Then pull the thermostat off the wall and give each little wire a gentle tug, because a single loose connection back there does the exact same thing. One person paid a $75 service call, plus half a day off work, and all the tech did was push a loose wire back into place. Look at where it's mounted too. Sitting in direct sun, or right under a vent blowing cold air across it, the thermostat reads a fake temperature, satisfies way too fast, and shuts the whole system down early. And if you run a smart thermostat, watch this one closely. There are homeowners who traced a dead compressor straight back to a smart thermostat that shut the system off and slammed it back on within seconds every time its schedule flipped to a new temperature. One of them burned through 2 separate compressors that way before catching it. If that's you, get into the settings and set a minimum off time and a minimum run time so it quits beating up the compressor. Here's one hardly anyone checks. If your indoor unit sits in an attic or a closet, it has a little float switch that cuts the system off when the drain pan fills with water. A partly clogged condensate drain lets it creep up just high enough to trip that switch, then it drains a bit, the switch resets, and the unit comes back on, over and over. It looks like some deep mystery, and it's really just a gunked up drain. Clearing that line with a shop vacuum takes about 15 minutes and has saved plenty of people a service call and a fat bill. Now we're into actual parts, and the good news is the usual ones are cheap. Out at the condenser there's a contactor, basically the relay that hands the big power over to the compressor. When its contacts get worn or pitted, it chatters, pulling in and dropping right back out, and the unit stutters in time with it. Then there's the run capacitor, the little cylinder that gives the compressor and the fan the kick they need to start and keep spinning. A tired one leaves the compressor unable to hold. Both are standard cheap swaps. The capacitor is a $10 or $20 part, and having a pro drop one in usually runs well under $200, which is pocket change next to the $1,800 or more a dead compressor would set you back. One honest warning before you try it yourself. That capacitor can still hold a real charge after the power's off, enough to bite you hard, so unless you already know how to bleed one down safely, this is a job to hand off, not a Saturday experiment. Then comes the one that catches people flat-footed, the unit that isn't broken at all. It's just too big for the house. An oversized air conditioner blasts the air down to the set temperature in a few minutes and shuts off before it's run long enough to wring the humidity out. So you get a house that's chilly and damp at the same time, a power bill creeping up, and a compressor piling up hard start after hard start. This is a design problem, not a failed part, and it's more common than you'd guess, because a lot of installers just bolt in whatever size was there before and skip the math. If it's been like this since day one, and the place feels cool but sticky, that's your tell. You don't automatically have to tear it out either. Plenty of thermostats let you stretch the runtime or lower the cycles per hour, and that alone can calm an oversized system down. If you are replacing it, push for a real load calculation instead of a square footage guess, and give a two-stage or a variable speed unit a serious look, since those run longer at low power and barely short cycle at all. Just understand that going bigger was the wrong move from the start, and any installer shrugging off short cycling as normal is telling you plenty about that installer. That leaves the two pricey causes, and I parked them at the end on purpose because they're the least likely and yet the first place people panic to. The big one is low refrigerant, and this is the part a lot of folks get exactly backwards. The refrigerant in a home unit is sealed in a loop. It doesn't burn off, and it never needs topping up the way you top off the tires on your car. So if it's low, something is leaking, plain and simple, usually deep in the indoor coil where it's a genuine pain to reach. When the charge falls, that same low pressure switch trips and you're right back to stuttering. So when a company says it just needs a top off, know that pumping more in without hunting down the leak is like refilling a bucket that's got a hole in the bottom. It runs right back out. This is licensed, regulated work, not a can of gas from the parts store. And if a fresh capacitor and a proper charge still won't keep the compressor running, then yes, you might finally be looking at a failing compressor, which on a unit past 10 years old usually means it's smarter to price a whole new system than to keep feeding the old one. So what should you actually do standing there right now? The single most important move is to stop letting it hammer on and off, because that rapid cycling is the very thing that chews up the compressor you're worried about in the first place. Shut it off if it's icing over. Beyond that, the cheap checks are worth 5 minutes before anyone gets paid a nickel. A fresh filter, a clear drain line, and new thermostat batteries knock out a big share of short cycling for almost nothing. If it's still stuttering once those are handled, you're into capacitor and refrigerant territory, and that's the moment to bring in someone with gauges instead of throwing parts at it. If you want the exact filter, a shop vacuum for the drain, and a cheap tester to check that capacitor yourself, I've dropped a short list of what's actually worth grabbing below.